Tell us about some of the choices you've made for your child.
Well, the choices that we made for our children were dependent on the child. For our oldest son, when we found out that he was hearing impaired, we enrolled him in the RGDF program, and we didn't really have a choice whether it was going to be total communication or the oral approach, because we were told that he only qualified for the oral approach because he had so much hearing. So, not knowing we were going to have another child with hearing loss, we said the professionals know best, and he went to a school that was primarily oral. He was not mainstreamed because he was delayed in speech, and he was there up until first grade. So he did really, really well there. His speech, flourished, but we wish we'd known about the other school and the other options that it had, because for Julius, when we found out that he was deaf after he was born, it changed everything completely, because even though Joe was hard of hearing, we faced so many obstacles trying to find the right educational setting for him. It seemed like he didn't really fit with his hearing peers. He felt more comfortable with the hard of hearing and deaf crowd, and so we just thought naturally it'd be best to blend the two, and having Julius in that program would probably benefit both of them. But at that time, Joe tested out of the RGDF program and became mainstreamed into the regular school setting. So at that time, we didn't really have the choice to pull him back and go back to where we could have gone before. So it's been a life change because we started using American Sign Language. We'd used it with Joe, but really just until his speech produced. We used milk and more and mommy and daddy and just simple commands with him. So we knew a little bit, but with Julius, we just did a complete life transformation. My husband decided to let me quit my job, and it was a life choice it was a choice that we had to make as a family, so that way one of us could get immersed in the culture and get immersed in the language, and luckily that I got to do that. So I went back to school and I learned sign language and was able to teach it to the baby, and from there that's become his primary language. So I think the choice to decide to use sign language was a good one, because he's strong in the language, but it's been difficult and changing for our family, because we have to keep re-educating ourselves and keep finding out more information about how to make sure the whole family gets access to it. And I think the hardest part is family that doesn't live with us to learn the language, to know how to sign, how to communicate. The biggest struggles are when the kids go and stay with other family members, and they just want simple things done, like we're going to go outside, or we're going to go play here, or we're going to go there, and everybody likes to know what's going on, including our 4-year-old who's deaf, and he wants to know where we're going. When he doesn't feel comfortable, like you're leading me somewhere, but I don't know where we're going, and no one's explained it to him, he gets frustrated, so it creates a lot of tension. So we've just had to educate our family members and our family how to communicate, so that way everybody gets along okay. We've currently decided to move our family to Austin, and hopefully both of our children will get to come to school at TSD. We looked at this school right when we found out that Julius was deaf. When he was, we looked when he was about a year old. We came to the family weekend retreat, and then after that we came and we toured the preschool area, and we just fell in love with the school. It seemed to have every part of the culture that we wanted our children to know that we couldn't give them, because that's the hardest part, I think, about being a parent of children with hearing loss, is that as hearing parents, both me and my husband are, we didn't even know where to go, so that way our children could identify with who they are and what they're going through, and to know that they're not alone. My son Julius was implanted when he was 2.5 years old, May 8th, 2007, and we chose to implant Julius after a year of really researching the pros and the cons, and we felt that he wanted a chance to be verbal. He would sit at the table with us and mimic us as our mouths moved, and even if we signed, he just wanted to talk, but nothing would come out. He'd just sit there and go, and nothing would come out. So we wanted to give him the gift of just having some sort of accessibility to sound, even if it wasn't crystal clear, even if he'd never use it to communicate with, just to know that it exists. That's why we chose to implant him, just to give him that additional resource. Our hope is one day that he will be able to orally communicate to make his life a little bit easier. But if he never does, we support him 100%. It'll be his choice when he gets older. Whether or not he chooses to continue to utilize his implant will totally be up to him. We just want to be able to let him know that we tried our very best to give him every option that we could.